Hi everyone, welcome to the second tutorial of many to come. Um, Today we're going to talk about moving from shooting in full automatic towards shooting in semi-manual and then into full manual mode. This can be done on the DSLR cameras. Some point and shoots can do it, and a lot of the newer smartphones have the capability too. Um, what it all really comes back to is one important thing, and that is the exposure triangle. So I'll draw you up a triangle quickly here. So the triangle is the idea of getting your shots perfectly exposed. It's made up of three parts. They are ISO, they are aperture is the second one, which is sometimes called f-stop. We can go into that one later on. And the third one is shutter speed, which I'll just do as SS, and I'm writing upside down, so I apologize if this is really that. So ISO is what sometimes is called noise within a photograph. Aperture gives you your depth of field, which we'll go into later as well. And shutter speed, I guess you can call it blur or movement within a photo. So today we'll talk about shutter speed and how it works within the exposure triangle and how it affects your shots. And the idea is to start thinking through your photography, so rather than just pointing and shooting before you even get to a location, thinking through what settings you need to set your camera on, whether you're shooting in semi-auto or in semi-manual or full manual. So shutter speed is basically when you press the button to take your shot on your phone or camera, a shutter opens and closes. That's as simple as we can put it. I like to make it so I could teach it to, say, my 7-year-old son or an older person or someone who doesn't know anything about photography. So if you already know all of this, I do apologize, but we need to start somewhere. So shutter speed can be quick or slow. If you're going to shoot a sporting event or say birds moving and you want to capture them in flight, or a person running and you want to catch them with no movement, you have a quick shutter speed. So a lot of the cameras go up to 1/4000th of a second. The really expensive ones will go up much quicker than that, and they also slow down the other way. If you're going for a sporting event or say birds in flight, you'd have a quick shutter speed dialed up, so it's just going bang bang really quickly. What that does as well is it plays with the light that's allowed into the camera. Within the triangle, if you have a quick shutter speed, it's letting in less light because it's opening and closing very quickly. So you'll have to get light from somewhere else within your triangle. So a quick shutter speed means you'll have to change your aperture or move your ISO within the triangle, because it's always got to be balanced to give you a perfect exposure. All cameras, mobile phones and the rest will have an exposure meter, but again we can go into that later on. I'll quickly draw it here for you and show you what an exposure meter looks like. Perfect exposure is in the middle, and you can go plus to be overexposed or negative to be underexposed. So it's done in points, but again we can go into that later on. But perfect exposure is right in the middle. So quick shutter speed is for your quick movements. If you want to capture them still, if you say go to a sporting event and you want to capture some movement, so a bit of a blur in the shot, don't have your shutter speed going quite as quickly. If it opens a little bit longer, it's going to capture that little bit of movement within the sporting event. The other way, going back in the other direction, is if you want to capture lightning, waterfalls, if you want to get car trails and those kind of things, you slow your shutter speed right down. Now, by opening or slowing your shutter speed down, means the camera's opening and taking in all the light and taking in any movement within the time it's open. You would have heard of long exposure photography. So if you're shooting to capture lightning or cars moving, you open your shutter speed right up, get all the movement within that time, and then it closes down. And if there's car trails, headlights moving through, you get all of the headlight movement. If it's open for a long time, you'll have the opportunity to capture lightning strikes that hit within that 15, 20, 30-second period that you're opening your shutter speed for. Now this also lets in a lot of light, so if you're doing it during the day, you're going to get an overexposed shot. You can counteract that by using filters, but again we can go into that later on. This is basically just telling you shutter speeds can be used to capture different movements and different amounts of light. If you're shooting at night time, you'll have to open up your shutter speed or to get it in some other part of your triangle. I hope that makes sense. It's just touching on shutter speed briefly, and I'll come back to you tomorrow with some more information on shutter speed and then heading into the rest of the exposure triangle. Okay, have a good night. See you.